All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Alex D'Amato, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys a little bit about how to develop and strengthen your personal brand and use some new strategies to improve your brand as a whole. So, this topic is especially interesting to me because I'm a TA for two sports branding and sports communication classes. And something I've noticed from students is that they tend to lack resume skills and personal branding skills, things of that nature, because we have a midterm assignment where we require students to apply to a specific company and attach their resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile, all those sorts of things. And what we want to do in our class is just help students strengthen their own presence and just learn how to sell themselves to a company. So the topics I'm going to be talking to you guys about today are how to make a SWOT analysis, resume building, portfolio building, and networking with both URI alumni and anybody outside the university. So when we think about our personal brand, it's a combination of two things. So first, how you see yourself and how others see you. So if you lack confidence in yourself, others aren't gonna view you in a positive way. But if you're confident in yourself and you take a lot of pride in what you do and you're extremely devoted to your talents and abilities, others will see you in that same way. And that will just strengthen your personal brand and the overall impact you can make on society. And people will remember you for being unique. So I'm not sure how many of you guys have actually heard of what a SWOT analysis is, but it basically stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So strengths are what are your unique attributes, abilities, characteristics that make you stand out from everybody else, that make you more memorable. Your weaknesses are what kinds of vulnerabilities or bad habits do you have that can prevent you from achieving your goals? Opportunities are what kind of resources are offered on campus or at your job? What kind of connections do you have that can help you get to where you want to get in life? And threats are what sort of obstacles are you going to face throughout this process? Are there any economic barriers, physical barriers, any bad relationships, bad friendships maybe that are preventing you from putting in your full effort and devotion to what you should be doing? So once you consider your SWOT analysis, figure out what your strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats are, now you can manage your public perception. So the main thing is making a good first impression. So when you're going to an interview, first of all, you always have to shake someone's hand when you're standing up. Shaking your hand while you're sitting down is not professional. So you want to carry as much professionalism as possible. Also limiting distractions, making sure your phone is silenced and completely tucked away so it's out of view. Just as a whole, carrying yourself with professionalism. And this extends both outside the room as well. This extends on the internet if you're using social media. You want to make sure you're extremely selective with what you share online. You don't want to potentially ruin your reputation based on what you post online. And here we just have a few examples of controversial tweets in the past. If any of you guys are NBA fans, Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant back in 2009 said a few stupid things on Twitter. And then we have a more recent one, which is a journalist from Boston who actually was sort of making a joke out of the whole Ariana Grande shooting situation in London. And so that his personal brand took a hit from that, and he hasn't since come back from that. So all it takes is one mistake, and people are going to remember you for that mistake, especially on the internet. Even if he deletes this post, it's still going to be available on the internet forever, essentially. So as a whole, it's not worth the risk because you could damage the reputation of your own personal brand as well as the company you work for. And oftentimes people get fired for this because The company does not want you to represent them if you're saying these things online without being careful about it. So that's an important thing to consider. And another thing is a picture's worth 1,000 words. Whether it's your LinkedIn profile, your social media pages, make sure your profile picture is either a professional headshot or, a picture that's casual but doesn't like show you doing anything illegal or anything immoral, things like that. Because when hiring managers are doing background checks, they're going to look at everything. They're going to look at all of your social media pages. So if you have any pictures on there that might send a bad message about your character, delete them immediately. Even if they're still present on the internet, delete them from your account and just make sure you're improving your presence and not giving a bad first impression. So now we're going to transition into some resume facts here. So the first thing is, when we're building a resume, we want a resume to be relatively short, 2 pages at most. And this is because hiring managers typically look at resumes for an average of 7.4 seconds. And that's it. And almost 80% of employers prefer short, concise resumes that are 2 pages or shorter. So if you're making a resume that's 4 pages long, odds are they're not going to read the whole thing. They're only spending 7.5 seconds looking at it. So you need to put your most important experiences, characteristics, those kind of things at the very top of your resume. That way the hiring manager can see it immediately. And the third part of this is that 77% of hiring managers will not consider resumes with grammatical or spelling errors. So when you're making your resume, spell check several times before you're ready to print it out and hand it to an employer at a career fair or something like that. It can't hurt to spell check. It can't hurt to proofread it as many times as possible. So here's an example of a poor resume. This is actually from my class, from the midterm assignment I was talking about. I did not want to name drop this person, so I covered up his name. But as you can see from this resume, it's pretty bare. There's not really anything on it. There's no detail about experiences, qualifications that make him fit for a role as a sports broadcaster. Like, how can you be a sports broadcaster, but you have no experiences listed? Which tells me, if I were the hiring manager, that this kid has an unrealistic dream and he just wants to be a sports broadcaster because he likes sports, not because he's actually good at public speaking. And, he has some qualities listed up here, but like, again, these are some of the most basic things that probably everybody has on their resume. I mean, you have team building, networking, public speaking, like anybody can just say that on their resume. It's not specific. He clearly put no effort into this, no time into this. And seemingly he just copied a template online and just spent a minute writing down the most basic things. This tells me nothing about his personality. This tells me nothing about his actual skill sets. And he doesn't even put references. He says references upon request. So clearly he doesn't really care. He's not serious about this job. And as a result, I wouldn't hire him. And this is the complete opposite. This is an example of a great resume from my sports branding class. And this is Josh Paiva. He's a photographer for the basketball team. And as you can see, he has plenty of experiences on here. He's got his skills, and these are way more specific than the previous one. He's got things like Photoshop, graphic design. He's got specific platforms that he uses the most frequently. And he even has awards here. His work was featured in Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. So this overall builds his credibility. It makes him somebody I would want to hire. And not only that, but he also has his digital portfolio here at the bottom. So anybody who looks at his resume can access some of his best pictures or any artifacts he wants to share. And that's what I'm going to be getting into in a bit. But first, everybody needs to have a LinkedIn profile, especially if you're a college student at URI. So if you're searching up any company on LinkedIn, let's just say NBC Universal. If you go to the tab that says people, you can search any name of an employee, or you can search the University of Rhode Island. And if you search the school, it'll bring back to you all the alumni who work for that company. And that is just a great way to make those connections and network with people who went to the same college as you. So not only making this filter, but also trying to connect with as many people as possible and take risks. Send someone a DM, even if they're a high profile person or they have a big position that may feel intimidating to interact with. The worst they can say is no. So just keep reaching out to them, be persistent, attend career fairs, things like that, and take advantage of any opportunities to get your foot in the door. And finally, as I was mentioning before, a digital portfolio is a great way to showcase some of your strengths and the papers you've written at school or some of the artifacts you've compiled over the years for your jobs. And this is just an example of my portfolio. I have several different categories, including leadership, my resume's on there, and I also have sports content. So under this tab, I have pretty much all of the best articles that I've written, all the best graphics I've created for the NECBL and anybody else I've worked with in the past. And overall, since I have this linked on my LinkedIn profile and on my resume, employers can go through this and they can see what I'm truly about. Because on a resume, the word limits, or not the word limit, but you can only write so much on a resume and you can't attach documents and graphics. So this is the best way to showcase your talents visually and also include a logo, a personal logo that fits best with your brand and has some sort of meaning behind it. My logo, I'm a huge basketball fan. You can see there's a cross in the middle because I'm religious, and I'm a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan. So that's where the green, midnight green color comes in. So you create a meaningful logo and a memorable logo that'll make you stand out from the pack and use that on your digital portfolio. So I'm hoping you guys learned some strategies about how to improve your personal brand, your presence on social media, develop a resume, all those sorts of things. And I just want to leave you guys off with a couple quotes from one of my favorite professors here at URI, Keith LaBelle, who's also the Title IX coordinator. One of the things he always tells our class is that the best ability is availability. And also, it's important to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. We can't expect to get anywhere if we don't put ourselves out there and take risks, healthy risks. But if we're constantly staying in our comfort zone, we're not going to be able to reach our full potential. We need to get out of our comfort zone, be willing to do the dirty work that other people may not be willing to do, and even work for free if it's necessary, just to put your foot in the door and tell an employer that you stand out from any other applicant. Thank you.